An archivist's day starts quietly, often in a calm, temperature-controlled space where the past sits waiting. As you might imagine, archivists don't usually rush into their day. There's a delicate, thoughtful approach to their work. The first task might seem simple, but it's crucial, checking the environment. The temperature, the humidity, these things can make or break the life of a document. It's hard to think of temperature as dangerous, but too much heat can cause old paper to crack, and too much moisture invites mold. Each day, an archivist fights these small but significant battles to preserve history. Once everything is in check, the real work begins. Imagine a box arrives, filled with family letters from over 100 years ago. Each letter is a piece of a long-lost conversation, telling stories of love, hardship, hope, and sometimes just the mundane details of everyday life. To an archivist, these letters are treasures. There's something magical about holding a piece of paper that someone else held a century ago, reading their words, imagining their lives. The archivist carefully sorts through the letters, figuring out how best to preserve them. Maybe they need to be cleaned, flattened, or scanned for digital records. It's a slow process, but one that's filled with quiet awe. These letters hold history, and it's their job to protect it. Archivists often stumble upon incredible discoveries. There's a famous story about a nurse's diary from World War II that had been forgotten in a box of military papers. The nurse had written about her days caring for wounded soldiers, capturing the horrors and heroism of war from her unique perspective. When an archivist found the diary, it was a revelation. Here was a woman whose story had never been told, and now it could be. It's not every day that something this exciting happens, but when it does, it feels like unearthing a hidden chapter of history. Archivists don't just handle old paper and forgotten boxes, though. In today's world, they're increasingly responsible for managing digital archives. Think about all the emails, text messages, videos, and social media posts that people send every day. An estimated 306 billion emails alone. That's an overwhelming amount of information, and archivists are tasked with deciding what should be saved for the future. It's not as easy as just hitting save. They have to consider what will be historically significant, what technology will look like in the future, and how to make sure digital files won't become obsolete. Just like an old letter from a soldier in the 1800s, a politician's emails today might one day become critical pieces of history. What's even more challenging about digital archives is how quickly technology changes. If you've ever tried to open an old file from a floppy disk, you know how frustrating it can be. Archivists are constantly thinking ahead, trying to preserve digital information in formats that will stand the test of time. It's hard to imagine what technology will look like 50 years from now, but that's part of the archivist's job, to ensure that future historians will still be able to access the emails, videos, and documents we create today. Throughout the day, archivists also help people with research. Maybe a student is writing a paper on a civil rights leader, or a filmmaker is looking for old footage for a documentary. Archivists become detectives, piecing together clues from the past to help others find what they're looking for. They're experts at knowing where to look, how to find hidden gems, and how to make sense of information that's often scattered and incomplete. This is where their work shines. Not only do they preserve history, but they help bring it to life for others. There was a time, not too long ago, when a researcher was digging into the Watergate scandal. The archivists working with them helped uncover documents that had been overlooked, shedding new light on a story that changed American history. Moments like that are why archivists do what they do. They ensure the truth is never buried too deep and that the important stories remain available for those who need them. Sometimes the job involves unexpected discoveries too. One archivist recalled finding an old sealed envelope in the back of a forgotten book. Inside was a letter signed by Albert Einstein written during World War II. The letter offered Einstein's thoughts on humanity and peace, giving historians a rare glimpse into the mind of one of the greatest thinkers of all time. Little moments like these, when something extraordinary is uncovered, make the careful, quiet work worth it. As the day draws to a close, an archivist might spend some time on preservation work. This is the part of the job that feels almost like being a doctor for old papers and photos. Maybe a torn document needs to be carefully repaired, or a photo from the early 1900s is fading and needs special attention. Every piece is handled with great care because once it's gone forever. Archivists think about the long term, about how their work today will allow people 50, 100, or even 500 years from now to still access these pieces of history. There's a quote by historian David McCullough that sums up the importance of an archivist's work. History is who we are and why we are the way we are. Archivists are the ones making sure that history is remembered accurately, and they do it because they understand how much we can learn from the past. In an age where information can be easily distorted, archivists are the guardians of truth. As they wrap up for the day, locking away boxes of records and powering down the digital archives, there's a quiet satisfaction in knowing that their work makes a difference. They might not be in the spotlight, but the work they do helps everyone. Historians, students, researchers, and even the public understand the past better. The documents they've preserved, the emails they've digitized, and the records they've organized will one day be used to tell the stories of our time. And as long as there are stories worth saving, there will always be archivists, carefully working behind the scenes to make sure history remains alive for future generations to discover.